didn't know Brian was going to be back good. Thank you.
Wow, thank you everybody. It's been so overwhelming for us, this community outpouring that has enveloped Frank and his family the last couple of days, and I know that we're all really grateful for that. So our wonderful brother Frank was born on November 4th, 1958 in Newark, New Jersey. He lived his first few years there and was joined by Shanicia in 1960 and me in 1962. Frank's first word was lawnmower. That was prescient because for those who knew Frank, riding lawnmowers, tractors, and snowplows became lifelong passions of Frank's. We were close in age and always companionable. We had some sibling rivalry, but the normal amount. Our parents, Harriet and Milton Perlmutter, built an incredible mid-century modern house in Short Hills, which we moved to in 1963.
Every day we walked through the woods to get to Hartshorn Elementary School. It was uphill both ways through 5 feet of snow, even in summer. Then we ran home for lunch so that we could watch The Munsters, Bewitched, and I Dream of Jeannie on our black and white TV while we ate. Frank started at Milburn Junior High, but our parents weren't happy with it. They wanted Frank to go to the Pingree School, but he didn't want to leave his friends. However, Frank really wanted a mini bike like the other boys in the neighborhood. This led to Frank's first successful major negotiation. The purchase of a Honda 70 mini bike in return for his acquiescence to switching to Pingree.
During his high school years, Frank developed into an incredible leader. He became the president of the B'nai Jeshurun Temple Youth Group and later president of the statewide Jersey Federation of Temple Youth. It was in this environment that his leadership style took root, flourishing later at IMB. So many of you have told us that you worked with Frank on a committee and how he loved to get people involved and how much he contributed to the community. One friend wrote to us, "I never heard him say a negative word about any of us." And we lived up to that mark of acceptance, following his example. Frank saw the good in people and always made them feel good about themselves.
Upon graduation from Pingree in 1976, Frank was a male pioneer at Vassar College in Poughkeepsie, spending his junior year at the MIT Sloan School of Business. After graduating from Vassar, Frank went to work for an advertising agency, but quickly learned that he was not cut out to be a madman. During the summer of 1982, while David and I were traveling in France, we met with our longtime friend, Jean Haas, with whom our family had a unique international exchange. Jean was the head of a French supermarket company and a great friend of our father's. When he heard Frank was looking for a job, he said, "Why does he not go and work for me in Madison, Wisconsin at my new Cub food store?" And David and I said, "That's a great idea." And we told Frank, and he said, "That's a great idea." And within a few weeks, he had moved to Madison, Wisconsin. At the store, there was a beautiful blue-eyed young woman working as a front-end manager. Jean's son, Philippe, who was also working at the store, bet Frank that he couldn't get a date with her. That October, so he just moved there in like August. This is in October. I went to visit Frank in Madison. Liz and Frank had just been dating for 2 weeks, and he said to me, "If this keeps going as well as it's going, I can see marrying her." And they were engaged by Thanksgiving and were married 7 months later on June 18th in Liz's hometown of Rhinelander, Wisconsin. Frank was the coolest big brother. He was so popular, and we always wanted to hang around with him and his friends. He had positions of authority, and everyone looked up to him. On top of that, Frank was extra cool because he was in a band. Whether it was planning for a gypsy conclave or band practice, our basement was headquarters central and was always filled with Frank's friends. In college, he continued to be a popular leader and the life of the party. As one of our friends told us, he always walked the campus with a crowd.
Growing up, sorry.
This part is important. When I went off to college, I asked my big brother for advice. And I've tried to live by this advice, and I want to share it with all of you today. He said to me, "Don't do anything stupid."
Remember that, right? Growing up, our father gave us chores and projects to do. It could be as simple as raking leaves to something much more complicated like building a dock on our pond in Pennsylvania. And when Frank and I worked on something, he was the master craftsman and I was the assistant. One day, holding the shovel for the 1000th time while he swept the dirt, I threw down the shovel and said, "It's your turn to hold the shovel." So Frank, he paused for a moment. He picked up the shovel, handed me the broom, and he was okay with that. Frank loved to be a leader, but there was no job that was beneath him. Anyone who worked with Frank on the boosters know that he was equally happy to be raising money as he was flipping burgers in the snack shack. Many of our best childhood family times took place at our family's country house in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. We had a tiny 200-year-old stone farmhouse where we gathered with our aunts, uncles, and cousins, especially during winter vacation. All of us boys slept on the 3rd floor loft. We had to climb a ladder to get there, and Frank was the organizer of the 3rd floor stories, which ranged from ghost stories to things a little more risque. Our grandma Bella never left the kitchen area, and she was preparing meals for 16 along with her mom and aunts. I'm in New England, aunts. Sorry. At the Pennsylvania house, Frank continued his love for lawnmowers and tractors. We had a caretaker named Les Botter, who every few years would dramatically cut back the hedges. And Frank always loved saying that the hedges should be cut back so they would be less Botter. All the cousins are here today, and along with their children too. And we're all so close still, and part of that reason is that Frank started a private group for us on Facebook called Bella's Boys and Girls, where we share memories from our childhood.
Since the news of Frank's death began to spread on Friday, we've heard from many of his high school and college friends. What we heard about Frank's heart, inclusiveness, and leadership is consistent with the outpouring of love we've heard from the Sherburne community. One friend wrote, "I moved to Short Hills in the middle of the school year in 8th grade. I was so nervous on my first day. I walked into class. The teacher introduced me and sat me next to Frank. He was my first friend. He immediately made me feel at home and then introduced me to his friends, and the rest is a beautiful history." I'm sure many of you have a similar story about how Frank made you feel welcome.
We were very fortunate to enjoy numerous family vacations when we were growing up. We went to Bermuda, where our parents honeymooned, Israel, France, Switzerland, and Austria. Our travels continued after college with many ski weekends,